Thank you. Good evening to you. Coming up on BBC London. A man is shot dead by police after reports he was armed with a crossbow and trying to force his way inside a home.
It's quite shocking for the neighbourhood, the neighbours, and particularly, like I say, people that are directly involved in it.
The police watchdog is investigating. Also tonight.
Often gangs of cyclists that will come in and snatch phones. They even have adapted sticky gloves to be able to grab the phones easily.
Cracking down on illegally adapted e-bikes, enabling phone thieves to make quick getaways. Plus,
rail passengers face disruption today due to strikes from train drivers, and more are planned later in the week. I'll have the details.
And from Barbie to Bob Marley, we speak to the London actor taking on the role of reggae legend. A very warm welcome to the programme. We start tonight with more on that news that a man has been shot dead by police in South London after reports he was armed with a crossbow and trying to force his way inside a home. It happened in Southwark early this morning, where some residents have spoken of their shock at what's happened. The police watchdog, the IOPC, has launched an independent investigation. Sam Harrison reports.
Oh, please, anyone inside your chest, come to the door, your hands on the shirt!
Before dawn, fear in Rotherhithe. This footage from a local resident filmed the chaotic moments before a man was fatally shot in Bywater Place by armed police.
Shots fired.
As daylight came, a community was left coming to terms with a traumatic and unusual event.
It's quite shocking for the neighbourhood, the neighbours, and particularly, like I say, people that are directly involved in it.
It initially began at around 5 a.m. after a man thought to be in his 30s entered the street and broke into a property, said to be armed with a number of weapons, including a crossbow. Officers say the situation was hostile and police were unable to stop those inside from being threatened. It was then that armed police arrived and shot the man who died on the scene. 2 occupants inside the property suffered minor injuries.
I live 100 metres from here. It is unusual, yeah. For shooting, yes. Obviously, there's incidences around it, like anywhere else in London. But in general, the peninsula, Rotherhithe Peninsula, is very quiet.
They probably feel sad because it's never happened before. So I live here like around 5 years. It's been 5 years. So probably sad.
Fatal police shootings in the UK are rare, but now that one has taken place here, an investigation has been launched by the independent police watchdog, the IOPC. In response, the Metropolitan Police said armed officers are highly trained and patrol the streets of London on a daily basis. They discharge their weapons very rarely, and all officers understand that when they do, their actions will be closely scrutinised. And it's those actions which an investigation will now shed light on. In the meantime, a community has been left in disbelief. Sam Harrison, BBC London, Rotherhithe.
Cladding concerns have been raised by residents after a fire at a block of flats in Wembley yesterday, which took 125 firefighters more than 5 hours to bring under control. London Fire Brigade says the cause of the fire is still being investigated and initial reports can confirm cladding was involved. Well, our reporter Frankie McCamley joins me. You've got more on this.
Well, yes, Riz. Now, as we know, yesterday firefighters were called to a fire at Petworth Court in Wembley, which is just near to Wembley Central on Elm Road. Luckily, all of those people that were inside that block of flats were evacuated. There weren't any reports of injuries, but today what we're hearing is more about the cause of the fire. Now, of course, an investigation is underway by London Fire Brigade. Although this afternoon, LFB said in their initial reports they can confirm that cladding was involved. Now, we've also heard from the London Fire Brigade Union. They've released a statement warning of criminal complacency, saying that it's warned of the risks of flat flammable cladding many years before Grenfell Tower fire, and decades of deregulation have created unnecessary risks, they say, to residents and firefighters. They're urging for action to ensure that buildings are safe. And after speaking to residents and the local MP, they've told me they've been calling for the cladding on this block of flats to be removed for some time now. And I asked the local MP what he thought when he first heard about this fire yesterday.
I was furious because we've been campaigning with residents there for over a year to get this cladding removed. The management company has known for 3 years that it is of the same substance as Grenfell, and yet they have not managed to get it off the building. It's a complete failure of their responsibility.
So, Frankie, what is the Housing Association saying?
Well, I spoke a little earlier to Kevin Bolt, who is the interim CEO of the Housing Association that's in charge of this property. He was at the scene of the fire. He said he'd been speaking to residents and he was urging people just not to speculate.
The fire brigade don't actually know what the role of cladding was within this fire at the moment. And as I've said, what we're doing is we're going to work with them to try and find out exactly whether it was some sort of contributory factor. But I think speculating about how fires spread and the fire itself isn't really going to help anyone. We will be talking to our residents. We want them to know exactly where we stand and what we're doing.
Well, as for residents, they are clearly frustrated. Some have lost their homes, some have lost all of their belongings. Octavia has said that anyone who needs accommodation has got it. Some may be able to return to their flats as early as tomorrow, but for others who have suffered much more damage, it may take a little bit more time.
Yeah. OK, Frankie, thank you for bringing us the latest on that. Frankie McCamley. You're watching BBC London. Lots more to come tonight, including...
The biopic of Jamaican music legend Bob Marley, starring Londoners, filmed partly in London, and I'm at the red carpet here in, where else? Central London.
Now, it may have happened to you, or you might have witnessed a phone snatch on the street. Well, the City of London police say gangs are using illegally converted e-bikes and e-scooters to make a quicker getaway because the modified bikes can reach speeds of 45 miles per hour. They're now cracking down on them, and our Home Affairs correspondent Sonia Jessup has been out with a dedicated team of officers targeting the problem.
This is how quickly a phone snatcher can strike, targeting Londoners who often don't even see them coming.
These are organised, often gangs of cyclists that will come in and snatch phones. They even have adapted sticky gloves to be able to grab the phones easily.
And for an even faster getaway, they're using illegal e-bikes and scooters, like this one, seized by City of London police. It's supposed to only do 15.5 miles per hour, but...
And all it takes is the twist and go. That's the miles an hour, 43 miles an hour.
The force says it's seizing around 5 illegal e-bikes and scooters a week.
And as you can see, looking at it, it is just a normal framed bike. However, it's got a great big battery attached here, a great big battery attached here, all the cables and everything in here. And if you look at this wheel in the rear, it's got a motor within that.
The kits to convert them can be bought online for just a couple of £100, and police say as well as being popular with phone thieves, they're also putting lives at risk.
They're really heavy. If I pick this up, this weighs a good probably 30 kilos.
So if that hits you?
If that hits you at 25 miles an hour, it's like a motorbike hitting you. So they're really dangerous.
The force says phone snatching soared to a record high in the summer of 2022, 143 offences in July alone. So they've brought back their cycling response unit. The crime fell by 11% last year compared to the one before.
We look at the intel where most of the snatches are happening, and we'll task 6 to 8 officers on bikes in those areas.
And it's not just phone snatchers, they're also stopping delivery drivers for using illegal e-bikes.
Delivery drivers are using them because they haven't got to pay for insurance and licences and tests to ride a moped. And when they can go out and buy a fairly cheap bicycle and then go and buy a kit for £300-400, get it fixed onto the bicycle, and as you've just seen, they'll go plus 30 miles an hour plus.
But if caught, their bikes will end up here. Just Eat told us safety is a key priority, and it takes a zero-tolerance approach to illegal vehicle use.
But this is just almost like a motorbike, isn't it? The size of it. We've even had a unicycle version where it looks like a great big motorbike wheel without the rest of the motorbike, and you sort of stand either side on it and lean, and there's a little sticker, and you throttle and it goes, and they go up to 60 miles an hour. We've seized two or three of them. Yeah, they're quite dangerous.
He's reminding Londoners to be wary of how fast phone snatchers can work. Sonia Jessup, BBC London.
Following yesterday's fatal bus crash at Victoria Station in which a woman died, there are calls for Transport for London to do more to make sure the terminal is safer for pedestrians. 3 people were injured during the incident. It's the second death in the same area since 2021 and comes just weeks after safety work was carried out. Now, the local MP, Nikki Aitken, says it raises questions about safety.
To have 2 fatalities within 3 years, and now sadly the second one after the safety works have taken place, I do think TfL really do need to take this a lot more seriously and really understand why this seems to be a real hotspot for accidents and for fatalities.
Local MP Nikki Aitken there. Well, in response to that, Transport for London says safety is our top priority and the bus station has reopened following a full safety assessment. They go on to say we continue to work closely with the police and the operator on the investigation into this tragic incident, ensuring all lessons are learnt. More now on the latest wave of strike action by train drivers. Commuters have faced another day of disruption on a number of rail services in and out of the capital. Members of the drivers' union ASLEF have walked out in a long-running row over pay and conditions. Our transport correspondent Tom Edwards has been assessing the impact.
Only long-distance services were running today from Stevenage in Hertfordshire. Commuter services were hit by the drivers' strike. Leanne runs a florist. The strike meant a slow day. She just wants the dispute resolved.
It does have an impact. It has been quiet today. Obviously, as a small business at a train station, I rely on footfall, and it just isn't here. You can see that today. So.
And what would you like to happen? Do you want them just to sort it out, I presume, because it's been going on a long time?
Yeah, no, definitely. With peak periods coming up like Valentine's Day and Mother's Day, I have this little fear that they're going to have a strike on one of those days, and that's just an absolute killer to a business like a florist's.
Fewer trains meant those that did run, like this overground train at Peckham Rye, were very busy. Roads were also congested. Many, though, like Alison Bunce, who works in Chiswick, decided to work from home.
It used to be a rail strike was announced and I would get terrible stress and anxiety. How was I going to get to work? How was I going to do my job? The effect on me personally, with the privilege of being able to work from home, is now negligible. It really has no bearing on how I can do my job.
At London Bridge, there were no trains on any of the 15 platforms. Drivers walked out at 6 major operators. This dispute is about pay. The unions say a 4% offer was unsatisfactory.
I've sat in rooms with these people for months on end. Every time I talk to anybody in the media, including yourself, I say I'm willing to come back to the table tomorrow if they're willing to make a reasonable offer and behave honourably. We have had no contact with the Transport Minister for 14 months. We've had no contact with the Rail Minister for 13 months. We haven't seen the employer since we rejected the deal last April. This isn't us not coming to the table. This is a government-led dispute. We don't have a problem anywhere else.
They could resolve it today by putting the offer that we have put together to their members, which would see the average pay salary for a driver rise to £65,000 for a 4-day week before overtime. We think that is fair and reasonable. We do tie it to working practice reform that we say is necessary in order to pay for these pay rises. We can't just go back to the taxpayer and ask for more money to fund this pay increase.
At the moment, there seems to be no end in sight to this dispute, with more strikes planned on other operators this week.
We can go back to Tom for a moment. Hi there, Tom. What about the next few days? What can passengers expect?
Well, more of the same. This has been going on for 20 months and we can expect more strikes in and around London later this week. If we just have a look at the details right now, you'll be able to see on your screen. Friday, the 2nd of February, operators Greater Anglia, C2C, LNER, which comes through here in Stevenage. Drivers are going to walk out. There'll be hardly any services. Saturday, the 3rd of February, West Midlands Trains, Avanti West Coast, East Midlands Railway, more strikes. Again, hardly any services on those operators. And finally, on Monday, the 5th of February, the operators Great Western and Chiltern are going to be hit by these walkout by drivers. And I'm afraid long term, the chances of this all being sorted out, as you heard there, the chance of it being sorted out long term do look increasingly slim. Back to you, Riz.
OK, Tom, for now, thanks very much. And a reminder, we have regular travel updates for you on our radio station. That's BBC Radio London. Let's turn now to some of the day's other news in brief. A jury has seen images for the first time of a newborn baby who died after her parents went on the run. Constance Martin and her partner Mark Gordon are on trial at the Old Bailey, accused of manslaughter. It's claimed they lived off-grid and hid the infant after their 4 other children were taken into care. More than 300 workers on London Overground are to take strike action in a dispute over pay. The RMT union said security control, station and revenue staff will walk out for 48 hours on the 19th of February and again on the 4th of March. And Queen Camilla has created a miniature book to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Queen Mary's Doll's House. She joins well-known writers including Alan Bennett and Malorie Blackman, who've also made tiny manuscripts. It's part of a special display at Windsor Castle to mark the centenary. Would it shock you to know that the number of London children regularly not attending school has more than doubled since before the pandemic? Many of the reasons cited are extreme anxiety and depression. In a moment, I'll speak to one head teacher who set up a new unit for pupils experiencing issues like this. First, Wendy Hurrell spoke to Jo and her daughter Rosie, who left her school last year and has been learning online instead.
How are you feeling when you're on the back of a horse like that?
It just feels calming, like everything, you know, when you just have a busy mind and then the second that you go on a horse, it's just all gone.
13-year-old Rosie has learned a lot since she took up horse riding 2 years ago. But in a mainstream educational setting, she just cannot cope.
We tried reduced timetables. She used to go to a SEN, this room where she could have some quiet time and do some colouring in, but she would just cry and cry. So we decided April last year to pull her out from school. It's not that she doesn't want to learn, she doesn't want to learn in that environment. And actually she has got a massive thirst for knowledge.
The school assigned Rosie a social worker and she had counselling.
Which helped, but she just kept saying, I can't go there. I'm fine if I'm at home. And she was. We just couldn't get her through those doors.
At its worst, what was Rosie's reaction to the thought of going to school?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, she said, I think I want to go back. I think I want to go back. I'm going to really try. And we drove past the school and she physically, like, panic attack, sweaty palms shaking, like a shortness of breath. And she's like, I can't do it, Mum. I can't go back there.
Rosie says her mental health has improved since she's not been in school.
You can't have a 5-minute break. You can't just sit by yourself for a few minutes just to process everything. And especially if you did have anxiety, it is a lot, like, overwhelming because it's just a lot to take in throughout the day.
Wendy Hurrell, BBC London.
Well, joining me now is Alex Yates, the head teacher of Constam Centre, a new unit based at the Royal Free Hospital Children's School for pupils who are unable or willing to attend school. Thank you for coming in. One example there of a teenager. Let me ask you, in your experience, why do you think we are seeing double the number of children in London classed as persistently absent?
I think it's complex reasons. We've seen a sort of a slow growth over the last 4 or 5 years, which is why we've ended up opening a new centre, and Camden's been really supportive and responsive to that. The pandemic has not helped. You've had young people who've seen a different side of things. You've seen their parents, you know, struggling to sort of move through, you know, a really, really difficult period. And some of them have not been able to get back. And it's sort of exacerbated existing issues about anxiety and also, you know, issues about being able to access the curriculum. We have a more neurodiverse community now. We've got diagnosed needs, undiagnosed needs. It's just more complicated.
And I know that your centre and school is oversubscribed. There will be some people watching this saying, well, actually, shouldn't we be encouraging children to re-engage with school?
Absolutely, and that's what we're here for. And you'll find most head teachers are sort of striving to do that by looking at their curriculum and looking at more inventive ways to do that. The idea of being sort of empathetic and understanding, and yet having really high expectations of young people, they're not mutually exclusive. And I think sometimes we think that, you know, there's a kind of, we're being overly sort of, you know, a caring approach is not the right one. We have really high expectations at Constam. You know, we've got a really interesting team, professionals who are teachers, non-teachers, therapists. But everybody holds the line, and they hold on to some really difficult feelings because depression is really hard to sort of get past.
And Alex, can I ask you? You know, obviously you mentioned how in demand the school is, but for some people watching who feel like actually this does resonate, they might be able to identify with it. What would you advise parents to do, perhaps before it gets to that point?
Well, I mean, it's all about change is hard. You've got to look out for the signs of young people withdrawing or withdrawing from sort of change or challenge. There are things that parents can do, I think. I mean, one of the things they can do from a practical point of view is you can look at your own local authorities, what they call local offer, the SEN local offer, see what's available. If they're really worried and they think that it's lapsing into sort of ill health, and I had a friend approach me about this the other day, you know, what do we do? This child's not attending. If it's medical, then it can be marked differently and a school can approach things differently. And it goes from being sort of what we broadly call unauthorised absence into something that can be, you know, more targeted for support. So that there are things that you know you can do. But broadly speaking, you've got to get young people reconnecting with the world. They've got to belong again. They've got to be in a group. They've got to get out again.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think this is, as you say, a complex and a much wider debate. So thank you very much indeed for your time today. Thank you. Alex Yates. And if you've got a view on this, or you're a parent or guardian perhaps in a similar position and happy to share your story, we'd like to hear from you. Get in touch by email. The address is hello@bbclondon@bbc.co.uk. You can see it on your screen there. To something very different now. He was the world's most famous reggae musician who regarded the capital as his second home. Now, a new biopic traces the life of the great Bob Marley, from his rise to fame to his death at the age of just 36. Londoner Kingsley Ben-Adir, who plays him, says it was always going to be a dream gig. Lakshmi Gopal has been chatting to him and London actor Lashana Lynch, who plays Marley's wife, at the film's premiere this evening.
It's a hit. Reggae is the people music.
You know you're a superstar.
I am a superstar.
I'm with two of the stars of Bob Marley, One Love. I'm with Kingsley Ben-Adir, who plays the man himself, and with Lashana Lynch, who plays Rita. Welcome, both of you. Let's start with you, Kingsley, first of all. How important was it for you to be able to bring not only the man who is the music legend, but also the man who was the promoter of peace and political activist to this role?
It was a joy. It was a joy to get to learn about Bob as a human being outside of the limelight with his friends and family was just a blessing, you know. The family were involved from the beginning and you know, they spoke a lot about, everyone knows him as an icon and a legend, and we've all got an idea of Bob and who he is, but actually what he was going through at this specific time, and also from his childhood, you know. Bob struggled and he suffered and he went through things. To get to that message of universal peace and love and unity, Bob went on a journey to get there, you know. He didn't just wake up one day and come out of it, and the movie kind of explores that a little bit, you know. We get to see a bit about who he was.
Yeah, Kingsley, you mentioned the family. Lashana, you met Rita, didn't you? How encouraging was she?
to even meet her was an encouragement, to have her open her doors to me. And, you know, it was just such a relaxed, spiritual, energetic affair. I felt like it was a meeting of two spirits who she respected the fact that I was coming to her knowing I was representing her authentically, and my duty was to ensure that her story was going to be told, her voice was going to be told in this movie. And she's honestly one of the most regal women that I've ever met, so it was an absolute honour.
Well, that's a good word for her, regal. And you are someone who had a Hammersmith childhood and Jamaican descent. How much did that inform this role?
Well, my parents were born in Kingston, so it was amazing to be able to return to their home country and speak in their accent and really celebrate them and celebrate Jamaica. But being born here, there's a blend of the two that is kind of indescribable, but to be able to shoot here and then shoot in Jamaica, I got to celebrate my own dual culture myself too, so it was lovely.
Londoners rocking the film industry. Well, time to see if tomorrow the sun is shining and the weather is sweet. I'll leave it there. Over to Corson. How is the last day of January looking?
Oh, Riz, but it's quite cloudy, I'm afraid. So there is some sunshine perhaps this week, but a lot of cloud. So no, they didn't get the memo, I'm afraid. Mother Nature, plenty of cloud around. And you can see, well, this picture sent in from one of our weather watchers, a blanket of cloud, but still a very pretty, picturesque scene sent in over Richmond. And we continue to see high pressure build as we look ahead to the rest of today and overnight tonight as well. So there will be a lot of dry weather, but still that cloud lingering for a time this evening. But as we head through the night, we'll start to see more in the way of clearer spells developing, especially later in the night. And this will allow temperatures to fall. So tonight will be a chillier night compared with recent nights, especially with the clearest skies dipping down to freezing. So there may be some patchy frost around, low single figures elsewhere. So it means for tomorrow morning, quite a cloudy start, but there will be quite a cool start as well. Some spells of brightness, but the winds will pick up tomorrow coming in from the southwest. So quite a blustery day, much more in the way of cloud to end the day. And that cloud again may be thick enough for the odd spot of light rain and drizzle. And temperatures 10 to 11 Celsius. And there may be gusts of up to 30 miles per hour. So blustery conditions then into tomorrow evening as well. Some cloud and this cold front spreading in from the north, spreading southwards, but it will clear by the end of the night. And under this clearer skies, temperatures around 5 to 8 degrees. But as we look ahead to the end of the week, then we're going to start to see much more in the way of milder air coming. So for Thursday itself, a bright start initially, but there will be a lot of hazy sunshine in store, a lot of high cloud and temperatures 7 to 10 Celsius. But Friday and into the weekend, here we'll see that tropical maritime air mass. You can see the oranges flooding the UK and temperatures well above average. So the average for the time of year is 8 Celsius for London. But as we look ahead, after a bright day for many on Thursday, 10 Celsius here, by Friday into the weekend, temperatures climbing up to 14 Celsius. So that's almost 6-7 degrees above average. But a lot of cloud around, I'm afraid, as well. Riz.
Goodness, look at those temperatures. Thank you, Corso. And that is where we leave you. But on our website, you can hear how football legend Ian Wright has turned pirate DJ in a new dystopian London film. Just scroll down to BBC Radio London. From me and the team, thanks for watching and enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.